Hello everybody and welcome back to Time About the Movies Flashback. I know I was supposed to have a video last week, but I got sick, I had a cold, so unfortunately I couldn't get the video out in time, but we're back on track this week, and we're flashing back to November 18th, 1988. Now, there was a couple of notable films that we've already covered on the original Time About the Movies show, including The Land Before Time and Oliver and Company, so if you want to go check those out, I'll put a link to where you can find those reviews in the corner and in the description below. But we've got 4 movies that I did not get to talk about before, so let's go ahead and start off with that movie. We'll start off with the biggest of the 4 new films, and biggest is not really saying all that much because this was not that big of a hit. It's Steve Guttenberg, Daryl Hannah, and Beverly D'Angelo in the fantasy comedy High Spirits.
Once upon a time, there was a romantic named Jack and his lovely date.
Jack, what are you doing?
Sharon.
Next thing you know, you want to have sex.
Together, they went on vacation to an enchanted castle.
Out your doors!
There he found Mary. There was only one problem. The true love of his life
Forever, Jack.
has been dead for 200 years.
Major jet lag.
Now it's the ghosts versus the guests.
Jack, don't stand there and tell me that you're having an affair with a ghost.
How many ghosts are there here?
Just kidding, trick question.
You're a ghost, I'm an American. It would never work out.
You threw me over for this? I hope she has a great personality because this hurts.
This is too psychotic for me.
Daryl Hannah. Peter O'Toole. Sorry, Peter. Steve Guttenberg.
I know looks aren't everything. It's just that they can help so much when you kiss you.
There's nothing like a vacation to give your spirits a lift. High Spirits.
Maybe we should get some moisturizer.
So you have a film that's set in a remote Irish castle called Dromore Castle, County Limerick. This is a comedy about thematic learnings towards Ireland's rich folklore regarding ghosts and spirits, where the castle starts to come to life with the help of such denizens. And you have Peter O'Toole playing this owner who converts his castle to a bed and breakfast, and this couple, played by Steve Guttenberg and Beverly D'Angelo, come to town, and Guttenberg basically ends up falling in love for this woman, who turns out to be a ghost, played by Daryl Hannah. And, you can definitely see the similarities to something that, like Death Becomes Her, which I think did this concept a little bit better than this. Actually, much better than this, I should say. This is Neil Jordan, who wrote and directed this. This was before his success with The Crying Game, and this was just after the success he had with Mona Lisa, which had Bob Hoskins starring in that film. And I don't remember really too much about this movie. All I remember from it is that it was not that great of a film. You could tell from that trailer there, some of the effects in this movie did not hold up very well. I mean, the effects in this movie did not hold up very well. At times they do. There are some pretty fun moments in there with the ghost effects that they use. And it's got a good cast overall. Daryl Hannah, Peter O'Toole, Steve Guttenberg, Beverly D'Angelo. You see Jennifer Tilly in there, as well as Peter Gallagher's in here. Liam Neeson's in here, one of his early film roles. Martin Ferrero. So there is a good cast involved here. At times there are moments where the jokes can work, but at the same time, it's not really enough there to really say you should check this movie out. It's a film that has its moments, but not enough there for me to really recommend it. So, that's a skip on High Spirits. So let's go ahead to the next film that we have here. Andrew McCarthy and Molly Ringwald in Fresh Horses.
Molly Ringwald.
Sometimes I can go through a whole deck of cards and tell which ones are red and which ones are black.
Andrew McCarthy.
How do you do that?
Do it by heat.
He wasn't born rich, but he was about to marry the right girl.
My daughter and Matt to their engagement. And may June come quickly.
All he had to do was forget about Jewel. Molly Ringwald. Andrew McCarthy.
Not in my house. Not with her.
Fresh Horses. Coming soon.
Hey, here's a fun idea. Why don't you lock the door or go somewhere else and do this? Don't have it in the house where your parents are at. This is a film about a Cincinnati college student played by McCarthy who breaks off his engagement to his wealthy fiancé after falling in love with this Kentucky girl played by Molly Ringwald he meets at a party. She claims to be 20 years old, but he learns that she's actually just 16, I should say, and already married. And this film did not do very well with critics. It's actually got a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the reviews for this do not sound that interesting whatsoever, and did not look like a film that really lived up to what it could have been, especially with Molly Ringwald coming off of films like Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club. It seems like it's out of a different performance for her, but just didn't connect with anybody. And Andrew McCarthy was slowly but surely building his star power because he'd followed us up with Weekend at Bernie's, which proved to be a much bigger success. The director of this is David Anspaugh, who had directed Hoosiers a couple years prior to this, and also would later go on to direct Rudy. But, I don't know, there's just something about this movie that, from the trailer alone, it just didn't feel like it had the right idea of what it wanted to do. It just kind of felt like we got these two young stars of the time period, they're doing something that's completely outside of their norm. Who knows, maybe they can actually make something work here, and sadly, it was not the case. The film kind of quickly died at the box office. Only had a budget of $14 million. Couldn't even make that back. Couldn't even make half that back at $6.6 million when it was all said and done. Other than that, other of noteworthiness, this was Weintraub Entertainment, who would later go on to produce the True Beverly Hills and some other films. This was the first movie that they ever put out as a studio, and like I said, not the best success overall. So, yeah, Fresh Horses came and went, and much like the rest of the movies that we have on here, including this next one here, Robert Downey Jr. and Kiefer Sutherland in 1969.
It was 1969. Roger, we copy. And there was one question on everybody's mind. What's going on? It was the year the war came home.
You must be really proud of your brother, huh? It's not my war. Everyone's entitled to his own opinion.
Thanks, Cliff. It's the age of Aquarius.
From the Academy Award-winning writer of On Golden Pond.
Wow.
Robert Downey Jr.
Trying to make me paranoid or something?
Kiefer Sutherland.
You are so weird.
1969.
People gonna look back on 1969 and say that's the year everything changed.
So you got a film here that deals with the Vietnam War and the resulting social tensions between those who support and oppose the war in small-time America. And you have the two boys in here played by Downey Jr. and Kiefer Sutherland, Winona Ryder, and another one of those early film roles that kind of branched around to a star. Bruce Stern is also in here, so is Joanna Cassidy. The director of this is Ernest Thompson, who, as the trailer indicates, is the writer of On Golden Pond, which is a much better success. This film doesn't really look all that interesting, honestly. I mean, it doesn't look like it has a whole lot there that gives it a little bit of an edge compared to other movies of this type. I mean, we've seen movies and TV shows do this kind of story about after the Vietnam War much better in other cases here. And this film just doesn't really have a whole lot there that I think really does make it stand out, except for probably some good performances by Downey Jr. and Sutherland, as well as Bruce Stern. I mean, those are three top-tier actors. I mean, those guys can usually turn in a good performance no matter what they're in. But, I've never seen the film in full, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but it's another one of those movies that didn't do so well. Despite the fact that it had like a small budget of $7 million, it barely made $6 million of it back, so yeah, not much more to say about that one, and not much more to say about our last movie that we have here, The Chocolate War.
We're just asking you to take the chocolates and sell them.
We're not asking, Archie. We're telling.
This is directed by Keith Gordon, who also wrote it, I should say. Most notable film I know that he did was The Singing Detective with Robert Downey Jr., which was the last movie he did. This is based off of a novel by Robert Cornmeyer about a young man who rebels against the ingrained bureaucracy of an elite Catholic school. And John Glover's in here. John Glover would later go on to star in Scrooge a couple weeks after this movie came out. Wallace Langham, you know him as Andy from Mission Hill and from CSI. He's in here as well. Who else is in here? Jenny Wright, Bud Cord. Some notable names in here, but I don't really know too much about the movie itself. I know Adam Baldwin's also in here as well. The movie is notable for having a big budget in terms of its music. Most of the artists featured on the soundtrack allowed the filmmakers to use the song extensively. David Bowie, however, asked for $100,000 for his song Heroes to be shown in the final credits of the film. Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill was later substituted, which, of course, that's more associated nowadays with Stranger Things. Peter Gabriel also got permission to have his gave them permission to have their songs being used in here. And the special mention in the end credits confirming his support for human rights and Amnesty International was also thrown in there as well. Like I said, I don't really know too much about the movie itself. I don't really know too much about the director itself, except for the fact that he did The Singing Detective. But I'm trying to look to see what the reviews for this were like. They were pretty good reviews. I mean, a lot of them were mostly pretty positive. So maybe it's probably a good movie. But again, it's one of those movies that doesn't have that big of a budget. This only had a $500,000 budget. It couldn't even make that back. It only made back $303,000. So didn't do well with critics, but audiences, I should say. But it did well enough with critics. So I guess there is something of value there to it. But I just don't see it, quite honestly, from the trailer that I see here. But I don't know. Maybe if I watch the movie one day, I'll probably see it for myself. But that's The Chocolate War. So with that said, that wraps up another Time About the Movies flashback. We'll flash back to November 11th on the next episode with 7 movies that I've yet to talk about, including the first movie featuring Chucky, Child's Play. We have Ernest Saves Christmas with Jim Varney, Iron Eagle 2. We also have A Cry in the Dark, Split Decisions, Distant Thunder, and also Ghost Town. So 7 movies that we didn't get to talk about yet. We'll talk about them on the next episode. But if you like what you saw here and you want to see more videos like this, hit the like and subscribe button. Check out the playlist on the next page. Check out the first episode. And I'll see you guys next time for the next episode. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.